Well, today I'm going to talk about what were called Hoovervilles. They were named not in a favorable way after the then President Hoover, who was a civil engineer who became president, but he built the Hoover Dam, which was a good project, but he wasn't too good at running the country. And not that I want to blame the Depression on him, but he certainly didn't know what to do about it. Anyway, the Hoovervilles were a symbol of the Depression. When, just like a symbol of the Depression were the soup kitchens, people standing in line to get food, well-dressed people, poor people, standing in long lines at institutions to get fed. They had no money. And another symbol was the well-dressed men selling apples on the corner down around Wall Street for 5 cents an apple off a soapbox. They didn't have jobs. They had nothing. And so the Hoovervilles sprung up for those who were actually homeless. And these people were very resourceful. They were mostly male. And they built, they salvaged wood and put together rather formidable structures which withstood the New York City rains and snow and the cold. They didn't have electrical lighting, but they did have kerosene lighting, I believe. And I think possibly some of them had electrical because they were some of them were close by the then existent poles where the power lines were routed, like the telephone lines. So they might have tapped illegally into those, some of them. And their sanitary facilities were not good, but those that constructed along in the 70s were, when I lived on 83rd Street, they built them right next to the Hudson River, so everything went into the river, which it was doing anyway. So that was a good place to be. And they were sort of self-policing people. They took care that there was no crime, and it was like a little city. And they had a council that decided on things. And I guess they lived on doing odd jobs like washing windows or whatever, in order to bring in food, which I think they shared on a community basis. And they had stoves. They had resurrected old stoves from some scrap piles. So they were able to cook, and they used the wood, I think, basically as fuel. And also the stoves served as heat for them in their places which got pretty cold. So I used to walk along the river, because we lived not too far from Riverside Drive at that time, and I used to walk past them, and I looked at them, and also they had them in Central Park. There was an abandoned reservoir which had been dry for long years, right in the middle of Central Park, next to a structure which I believe they used to call the observatory. It was a weather observatory. It looked like a castle. It was built like a castle, a little castle. And so in that depression where the reservoir had been, there was another long-standing Hooverville. And the police didn't bother them. The police were aware of them, and of course, and let them alone because they had to live. And they were there for years and years and years, starting around 1929, probably until a little after Roosevelt came in, I guess in 1933, when, of course, he created the WPA, the Works for Progress, Works Project Administration, which gave jobs on a low level to many people, and also the CCC, which was the Civilian Conservation Corps, where young people joined up and engaged in physical labor in the forest. They do reforestation all over the country. So they both, WPA and CCC, did some projects which are still standing today. And they also had an art project where some of my friends belong, writing and art, acting. As a matter of fact, my brother Newton and Orson Welles were in that WPA project, and they put on plays. And that was how Orson Welles got started, actually, in the drama end of it. So those were the Hoovervilles, and that was a symbol of the Depression, and it lasted about 4 or 5 years. And now, of course, they're along the American River in Sacramento. They recently disbanded a long-standing tent city. They really didn't ever build structures, but they lived in tents, and it was a nice area and well policed. But in the tent city here of this era, there were many women and sometimes even children. In those, as I recall, there were very few women, and I don't think there were any children. I don't know where they were. I guess in homeless shelters, actual physical shelters. But it was a sad thing, and not many people know that about Hoovervilles, so I thought I would just say a few words there.